upsetting incident that happened. That was a family fight. My uncle had a 27,000 acre cattle ranch.
Louder. If you have to sing it.
My uncle Jack had a 27,000 acre cattle ranch near Tucson, Arizona, and not far from the Mexican border town, Nogales.
How do you spell that?
Nogales, Nogales.
Enunciate, David.
Nogales! Do I have to shout?
Just speak louder. You don't have to shout. Make an in-between very, very
Right.
low. And
This was the event. My mother, father, and I were invited by my Uncle Jack to come to the ranch. And the occasion was summer roundup of all the cattle, where they do the castrating and branding. And you drive all the cattle all day long, starting at 5 in the morning, into the end of a valley, so that you can easily rope the calves, brand them, and castrate. All right. So you have to be a good horseman, and I was. And my uncle was good too. My mother was very good. She always had her horse Jim since the time she was 12 years old. She had to give him up when she got married to my father because they didn't have any money. My father was only getting 90 a week during the Depression, which is still a lot, playing flute in the Chicago Orchestra. Okay, so here we are. We've been up since 5 in the morning. Hot, really hot Arizona, like 90 degrees. And we've been riding all day. And I remember after about 5 hours of riding, I finally drew my horse up just to rest him and to look around. And what do I see between his forelegs? A rattlesnake. And a rattlesnake can jump up and strike a horse right in the nose, and the venom is enough to probably kill him. And so, what did I do? I just got my nerve. I had spurs on, gave him a little bit of a kick on my heels and the spurs, and on we went, right over it. He stepped right over the rattlesnake. I could hear him, I could hear the rattler. And, I looked back and boy, I tailed it out of there,
You weren't afraid the horse was going to buck and throw you off?
No, he wasn't hit, or not. He wasn't even scared by the thing. He just stepped over it. And we galloped on for about 3 miles after that. And then we come down, and and I get to see my first taste of seeing calves castrated, and the brands are on the fire, getting red hot, branded with the brand of that ranch. And we were probably 20 miles from high, like Sierra Nevada mountains, in which there were mountain lions and the most extraordinary sunsets you have ever seen in your life. And this is just the beginning. So here we are. My father, Jack always had a new Cadillac, and this was a Cadillac convertible.
This is your uncle?
My Uncle Jack. So my father and Val and Peter and I were in this Cadillac convertible, driving along, probably from Tucson to back out to the ranch or something, or maybe we've gone into Nogales to get something. But somehow, according to my father, Val had her dress pulled up, sort of up almost to her navel, and she's a sort of come on, a kind of exposing herself. Anyway, that night at dinner, there was a glass of wine poured, and she, with some kind of nervous gesture of her hand, she hit the glass of wine and splashed it all over, and almost in his face. And he got into a rage.
Your father?
Because he felt that she.
Was it your father or Jack?
No, it was my father. But here's his brother-in-law, who is like his brother to him, who he had, put together after Jack had been beaten almost to a pulp by these Northwestern football players, because he used to go into bars.
But that was a while before that.
That's right. Anyway.
All right, so they had history.
They're very, very close, and every time Daddy would enter the house, Jack would be waiting for him high up on a coat rack or something, and he'd jump him, and they'd wrestle like for an hour. And Jack was strong as hell, and anyway, so here they are. Jack's wife, this beautiful wife, is the one who's wrong and has insulted my father and done something sexually suggestive, and then slapped this glass of wine in his face. So they start yelling at each other, and Peter and I were just scared out of our minds. I mean, and my mother was upset, and then this is just the beginning of a little bit of a chapter of that. She liked to go deep sea fishing for marlin. And I mean, these are Val. And they went down to the Gulf of California, a town called Guaymas. It's hard to even find on the map. I mean, I've never been near there again. I mean, I went to Mexico after that when I was about 14 years old with my sister and mother, to Mexico City, to Tasco, to Cuernavaca, but I had never been to Guaymas. Anyway, so we went to Guaymas with Peter, and I had pink eye, and so I had to go into a dark room for like 5 hours. They were afraid I'd be blinded by this disease if I got too much light.
Isn't that meningitis?
No, it's not meningitis. It's pink eye. So I was in a dark room like for all day long, and then she goes out on the boat. She was out there all night long fighting this 460-pound marlin. She brought it in after fighting, after playing it for something like 7 hours. She got back in something like 5:30 in the morning, victorious, having, and took the picture and everything, standing up next to a fish that when it was hung up, it was, on a pulley. It was as tall as this whole ceiling. And here's Val, tall. She's a rather tall woman, blonde, beautiful, standing next to this huge marlin with her fishing rod.
Have a sip.
What is it?
Sangria.
He's already had quite a lot.
There's hardly any more.
Anyway, so that was a success story, and the whole business about the slight to my father and slapping the glass of wine was all forgotten, never talked about again. I mean, it wasn't a grievous thing that was just gone over or talked about. It was just sort of passed over. And then finally I'm back in Knoxville, Tennessee. I didn't see Jack again probably. I think he came to Lawrenceville once when I was playing football and took me out to dinner in New York. And he gave me, when I graduated from Lawrenceville, he gave me the most expensive watch and probably the most beautiful watch made in the world. A Patek Philippe.
What did happen to it?
I sold it. They're solid gold wristwatch, and the best of the paddock fleets were the very flat pocket watches, in my opinion. But this is a gorgeous watch. I wore that all through Lawrenceville and Harvard, and finally I needed some money. I went downtown in Boston and sold it for $2. You gotta survive. I sold my gun collection too. I sold my Tower of London pirate pistols, my
Let's
dueling
stay on the
pistols.
story.
All right.
You
So
started talking about
Val and Jack and Peter. So Peter,
And some fight between your father and Jack.
yeah,
not
and
between
Val.
the father, not between David Glenn and Jack. It was between David Glenn and Jack's girlfriend, right?
Wife,
Wife.
Val.
Who was a great fish. She was a great fisherman.
That's right.
So she was a tomboy.
Oh, I mean, she was in the society pages almost every day in the Chicago Tribune.
What did she do?
They call it the Cafe Society. What did she do? She just was beautiful. That's all she did. She was just.
Which college did she go to?
She didn't go to college that I know.
How do you know? Maybe she
In
did.
those days, very often, girls of good family
Maybe
were
she
not
went.
sent to
Maybe
college.
she went to Wellesley or Smith.
We don't know that.
She may have gone
I never
to
heard of thing about it.
secretarial school.
We don't know. So that's something we could research.
But her first thing she did was to marry Ford Bell and get divorced. So obviously she got a lot of.
And that's
probably
how Peter Bell was born.
Yeah.
Peter was born before they were divorced, but obviously she got a huge settlement in that divorce from Ford.
Cha-ching.
And Ford actually came and visited Val and Jack, and I met him in the Phoenix house.
And he was a good sport.
He was a nice man. And it was a kind of funny situation for me, having known that they were divorced, to have him actually show up there. Not that I was embarrassed about it or nervous. He was a very nice man, a handsome man. And she cooked, and it was the first time I ever had blue cheese on a salad.
What else was in the salad? Bacon?
No, just a wonderful salad like a romaine or something.
A creamy dressing?
No, just little broken up pieces. The first time I ever had that. Delicious.
Tomatoes?
No.
Just
lettuce salad with a little bit
Or
of blue
blue
cheese.
cheese.
First time I ever had that.
No nuts?
No
walnuts?
You don't forget that. All right. Don't ask any more questions. All right. So Ford actually came to see both Jack and Val, and of course Peter came in, and I was introduced, and he was a very sweet man, and he's happy to see Peter. Peter was actually his son, not Jack's, and so it was a pleasant lunch, a pleasant meeting all the way around. Everybody was cordial and happy to see each other. He was particularly happy to see Peter, his boy. And of course I was sort of the one who was sort of supposed to keep Peter busy, doing something. And we'd ride our horses up in the Camelback Mountain through the cacti, the huge cacti.
How old were you when you rode horses?
I was 10.
And Peter was?
He was probably
6?
I think he was
7?
about 6 years old. And somebody would help him on and everything. And one time we just
must have been a really docile horse.
One time we went sort of exploring, and they thought we were lost, and they got mad at all of us.
But you
couldn't find us.
But you came back.
Yeah, we got back.
What kind of horses were they?
They were, I think.
Big one.
His was a Palomino, a blonde, and I had a kind of sorrel, maybe a quarter horse. Those
very nice.
Beautiful horse.
Patient.
Yeah, very patient, very easy. Not dangerous. They never threw us, and have these incredible rides because these mountains around even their winter place there. And then there was the Biltmore Estate, which was the big hotel, and then there was the Wrigley Tower, which we could see way up on the hill. The Wrigley's owned all
Didn't
this.
your mother invest in Wrigley's chewing gum
Sure.
for years?
Yeah, you remember the cartons of Wrigley chewing gum.
And she invested in IBM.
Mm-hmm. Anyway, and the interesting thing about the Wrigleys and this magnificent house or tower or something in the distance, it wasn't the Biltmore Estate, it was the Wrigley, one of their huge houses on the top of a hill, and there was a big tower, they were the people who owned the rodeo. When I had that, I was given that supposed to be great honor to be taken on the Catalina ride with my father-in-law, Alan Bullard, attorney of the Admiralty in San Pedro, and all the most illustrious and prosperous businessmen and lawyers and doctors in the whole Los Angeles area were part of the Catalina ride, and so the last thing we did was to go to the rodeo at the Wrigley Ranch. So that comes into another story, is the last part of it.
It doesn't really have anything to do with the story to do with your uncle and Val.
No, it doesn't. It's just that the Wrigleys are part of a theme that keeps going on.
The Wrigley son.
Because they owned Catalina Island.
The Wrigley son went to Bard with me.
All right. So, and that's when I rode the bull to prove myself to my father-in-law. And he told his both sons, Bill and Tom, he said, you'll never be like David Van Vactor. I mean, and Tom told me this rather recently, that he always had this put before him, is that I'm some kind of model of an intelligent, well-educated male, athletic, intellectual, sort of creative male figure that Alan sort of taunted his sons with, to see if you could live up to that,
That's really ugly thing.
And one evening I had to arm wrestle everybody, Alan and his two sons, and I beat them all. And I had promised after reading Counterpoints by James Joyce that I would never get in an arm wrestling fight with anybody. But I beat them, all three of them. And that was the night that Alan had a bottle of whiskey, and he'd take a swig and he'd hand the bottle to me, and he picked me up off the ground, around the waist, and lift me up, almost up to his shoulders, and then I'd give me the bottle, I'd take my swig, and then I'd pick him up. And then the boys were brought in, and I had to arm wrestle all three of them, all the males in the family.
Were they about your age or younger?
No, they were younger. They were 10 years old when I met them, both Bill and Tom. Tom later went to Middlebury, and he went to Yale Drama School, and Meryl Streep was in his class, and Sam Shepard. And he was then the director of the Manhattan Theater Club in New York. And he's one of the best directors in New York, in Manhattan, and head of Brooklyn College Theater Department, chairman of the department. Still is, I think. He may have just retired. He's gone through it. He's just recovered from a terrible prostate cancer.
What was that?
Looks like an avalanche.
I think that's the end of my story for this evening.
No. Wait a minute. Wait. Where were you when you stopped?
talking about Tom Bullard and being head of Manhattan Theater Club and then chairman of the theater department at Brooklyn College.
Did you tell about when you had to marry Anita and he made you go through the whole rodeo?
Well,
Yeah, he told that already.
so
What about that stupid island where all those Hollywood types went?
That's Catalina Island.
You were talking
I already
about
told
Catalina?
you,
Yes, he did.
And the rodeo at the Wrigley Ranch. I mean, the Wrigley's owned all of Catalina Island.
What happened after that? Tell them a little story. One little vignette.
It was, I mean, Alan took a picture.
Sounds good to me.
He twirled a lasso down in a big circle, and he had a picture of me about to step into it. And he had that big, 8x10 photograph. We all see a photograph of that. It's a joke, So, I mean, basically, I not only had to ride the bull and try to get off the goddamn thing before I ran into the fence at the end of the ring, but I then had to rope about 150-pound calf and tie him up, against a stopwatch. Do it in, let's say, a minute and 10 seconds or something. And this thing weighed about 160 pounds, so you had to use your leg to lift him up so you could and trip him up and get him down, and then you put the lasso around 2 feet, and you get him tied up, and then the minute and 10 seconds are up anyway. So I just nursing my back, which getting off that bull. When I got off, just wrecked my back. I had to go to an osteopath for months after that. I mean, just completely wrenched my back just under my thoracic. So we just, all that happened is that we got in the boats with our horses and on barges and went back to San Pedro, and there Anita and her mother Carolyn were, dark glasses, redheads in these very dark glasses, and very happy to see us, and sort of proud of me, and I'm very happy to see them. And back to Rolling Hills and LA, seeing Raven, my sister, and all of our friends out there, and just going on with life.
Were there any caves in Tennessee?
Sure.
Did you ever go caving?
Spelunking across the river. Yes, and this is where.
You ever see anything interesting in those caves?
No, but there are things interesting in the caves in the Cumberland Mountains. There are cave drawings that go back, several thousand years that the University of Tennessee Archaeology Department has done a lot of work on.
Didn't they find something in the river?
Well, also a lot of the Cherokee Indian
Didn't they find some Viking
potteries.
Didn't find any Viking?
No. Nothing having to do. No, the thing that they found in Tennessee, Cyrus Gordon found was a Hebrew, a stone with a Hebrew character on it. That they carbon dated of something like 3,000 years old. So that the mariners from the Phoenicians and the Jerusalem, who were going out on ships, to do tin mines and Glastonbury and all that, had actually gotten to Tennessee, and Cyrus Gordon proved this with carbon dating. So they were there like, probably 3,000 BC or something.
No, 3,000 years ago isn't 3,000 BC. 3,000 years ago is 1,000 BC.
Right. But that's all written up, and if you take Cyrus Gordon, who taught at both Brandeis and New York University for a long time, NYU, you take any of his bibliography.
And he wrote some books about this.
He wrote books on a lot of things, but particularly this was one case of this Hebrew character. And he also had a theory that Hebrew characters were based on Chinese kanji.
Ancient Chinese.
Ancient Chinese. And
I thought kanji was a Japanese word.
But
Japanese and Chinese are related.
I understand that.
the
I'm just
character,
saying
in other
that
words, the lettering.
I understand that.
And it's
I'm saying
because
that
of
the
the
word kanji is Japanese. That's all I'm saying.
All right, but this is a kind of disputed theory, and it only makes sense because of the spice trades, the spice trade, between the Far East and the Mid East. And he was the first one to do a grammar of Uriditic, and other ancient Semitic languages. And some of his theories were controversial, but they've all proven out. And he has a big bibliography, and there's a whole biography of Cyrus Gordon, and very close friend of ours.